The lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy as 23 alien students from across the galaxy settled into their seats. Professor Zenth, a tall crystalline being from the Vorth system, activated the holographic display at the front of the room. Today's lesson would focus on comparative species biology, specifically examining how different civilizations protected their young. Kira, a feathered avian from the skylands of Ethros, preened her blue-green plumage anxiously. She had heard whispers about humans throughout her 3 years at the Galactic University, but most of what she knew came from rumors and half-truths. The small bipedal species from a backwater planet called Earth had only recently joined the galactic community, yet their reputation preceded them in the most unusual ways. Today we examine the human approach to child protection, Professor Zenth announced, his voice creating harmonic resonances through his crystal body. I must warn you that some of their methods may seem extreme to your sensibilities. Torek, a large insectoid hive mind representative, clicked his mandibles skeptically. His species protected larvae through collective consciousness and shared neural networks. The idea that a species could function without constant mental connection seemed impossible, let alone protecting young ones individually. The hologram flickered to life, showing images of human children playing in what appeared to be a contained outdoor environment. The alien students leaned forward, studying the small humans with fascination. They looked so fragile, so vulnerable compared to the young of most galactic species. Humans begin protecting their offspring before birth, Professor Zenth explained. The developing child remains inside the mother's body for approximately 9 Earth months, during which time the female human will alter her entire lifestyle to ensure the child's safety. Mira, an aquatic cetacean whose own species laid eggs in the deep ocean trenches, bubbled in confusion through her breathing apparatus. Professor, surely you mean the community provides protection. Individual sacrifice seems wasteful. No, Mira. Individual human mothers will cease consuming potentially harmful substances, modify their physical activities, and undergo regular medical examinations. They do this alone, though sometimes with support from their mate or family unit. The students exchanged glances. Most galactic species relied on community-based child rearing, where the burden of protection was shared among hundreds or thousands of individuals. The concept of individual responsibility seemed both primitive and somehow admirable. Zara, a gaseous being from the Nebular Confederacy, pulsed different colors as she processed this information. Her species reproduced by releasing energy patterns into space, where they either survived or didn't based on cosmic chance. Professor, what happens when the human child is born? Surely they transfer responsibility to trained specialists. Professor Zenth's crystal structure shifted to a darker hue, indicating amusement. Quite the opposite. Human parents become even more protective after birth. Observe. The hologram changed to show human parents installing what appeared to be barriers throughout their living spaces. The aliens watched in amazement as humans covered sharp corners, blocked access to stairs, and secured cabinets with complex locking mechanisms. They modify their entire environment? Kira chirped in disbelief. Why not simply teach the child to avoid danger? Human children require approximately 18 Earth years to reach full maturity, the professor explained. During their early years, they lack the cognitive ability to recognize many dangers, so humans remove the dangers instead. Torek's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. This is inefficient. Our larvae learn survival skills within days through direct neural download. Why do humans deliberately keep their young ignorant? Because human intelligence develops slowly, but reaches extraordinary heights, Professor Zenth replied. Their prolonged childhood allows for complex learning and creativity that surpasses most galactic species. However, this extended vulnerability requires unprecedented protection. The hologram now showed human children at play in specially designed areas. Every surface appeared soft, every toy carefully crafted to prevent injury. The alien students watched as human adults constantly monitored the children, ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. They never leave them alone? Mira asked, her sonar-based voice carrying notes of disbelief. Rarely, especially during the early years, humans have developed an entire industry around child protection. They create specialized furniture, clothing, food, transportation devices, and even entertainment specifically designed for safety. The images shifted to show car seats, strollers, safety gates, and child-proof containers. Each item represented hours of research and development, all focused on protecting small humans from a universe that could harm them. Dr. Vex, an elderly reptilian whose own species hatched fully capable of hunting, shook his scaled head. Professor, this level of protection would create weak, dependent offspring. How do humans develop strength? Patience, Dr. Vex, we will explore that paradox shortly, Professor Zenth replied. But first, observe their feeding practices. The hologram showed human parents carefully preparing food, checking temperatures, and cutting items into small pieces. They tested everything before offering it to their children, sometimes even pre-chewing food for the youngest ones. They process food for their young. Zara pulsed a shocked crimson. For how long? Several years until the child develops proper teeth and swallowing reflexes. Humans will also research every ingredient, consulting multiple sources to ensure nutritional value and safety. The alien students sat in stunned silence. Most galactic species expected their young to find food independently within days or weeks of birth. The idea of processing food for years seemed incomprehensible. Kira's feathers ruffled with anxiety. Professor, how does this species survive? Such investment in individual offspring seems unsustainable. Do they produce hundreds of children to compensate for the resource expenditure? Actually, humans typically have only 1 to 4 offspring during their entire lifetime, Professor Zenth answered. The lecture hall erupted in shocked exclamations. Toric's mandibles clattered rapidly, Mira's sonar squeaked in distress, and Zara cycled through several colors of disbelief. Dr. Vex simply stared at the hologram with ancient, calculating eyes. Impossible, Toric buzzed. No species could survive with such limited reproduction and such enormous individual investment. Professor Zenth's crystal body hummed with harmonic amusement. Yet humans not only survive but thrive. Their protection methods, while seeming excessive, produce offspring of remarkable capability. Tomorrow we will examine how human children develop despite this protection, and why their methods have proven so successful that other species are beginning to adapt human techniques. The students filed out of the lecture hall in contemplative silence, each struggling to comprehend a species that invested everything in protecting just a few precious young lives. None of them suspected that this was only the beginning of their education about human protective instincts. The next morning, the alien students returned to Professor Zenth's classroom with minds full of questions about human child protection. Many had spent the previous evening researching human society through the galactic database, only to find more puzzling information about this strange species. Kira arrived early, her blue-green feathers still ruffled from a restless night. She had tried to imagine raising just 1 or 2 offspring with such intensive care, but her avian mind struggled with the concept. Her species laid dozens of eggs, each season, expecting perhaps half to survive to adulthood through natural selection. Professor, she called out as Zenth entered the room, I discovered that humans have something called schools. Are these training facilities where children learn survival skills? The crystalline professor's structure shifted to a warm amber color, indicating pleasure at the student's initiative. An excellent question, Kira. Yes, humans do create specialized learning environments, but not quite in the way you might expect. As the other students filed in, Toric buzzed with agitation. Professor, my research indicates that human children attend these schools for many years, sometimes over a decade. Surely this is an error in the database? No error, Toric. Human education systems are designed to gradually prepare children for independence while maintaining protection throughout the learning process. The holographic display activated, showing the interior of a human elementary school. The alien students gasped at what they saw. Every corner was rounded, stairs had railings at multiple heights, and the floors appeared to be made of materials designed to cushion falls. Even their learning environments prioritize safety, Dr. Vex observed, his reptilian eyes narrowing with interest. Yet I notice they separate children by age groups. Why? Human development occurs in stages, Professor Zenth explained. They group children with others at similar developmental levels to provide appropriate challenges while minimizing risks. Mira's aquatic form pulsed with confusion. But Professor, how do they learn to handle real danger if everything is made safe? The hologram shifted to show human children engaged in supervised activities. They climbed specially designed playground, equipment, learned to swim in controlled pools with multiple safety measures, and practiced various skills under constant adult supervision. They introduced challenges gradually. The professor continued. Humans call this age-appropriate learning. Watch this carefully. The display showed a group of young humans learning to cross a street. Adult humans stood at every corner, stopped traffic with handheld signs, and guided each child individually across the roadway. Safety cones, bright vests, and multiple redundant precautions surrounded the simple act of moving from one side of the road to the other. Zara flickered through several colors of bewilderment. Professor, in my species, survival challenges are introduced immediately. Those who cannot adapt are naturally selected out. This system seems to prevent natural selection entirely. Precisely, Professor Zenth replied. Humans have essentially eliminated natural selection for their young. Instead, they use artificial selection through education and protection. The classroom fell silent as the implications sank in. Every galactic species relied on natural selection to strengthen their gene pool and eliminate weakness. The idea of preserving every individual, regardless of initial capability, challenged fundamental assumptions about survival and evolution. Toric's compound eyes reflected the hologram as he processed this information through his hive-mind connection. Professor, I am receiving input from my collective. They find this concept disturbing. How can a species improve without eliminating the weak? Because humans define weakness differently, Professor Zenth answered. Observe their educational methods. The hologram showed human teachers working with children who struggled in various ways. Some children learned differently. Some moved differently. Some communicated differently. Instead of abandoning these children, the humans created specialized programs, individual attention, and modified environments to help each child succeed. They refused to abandon any offspring, Kira whispered, her voice filled with something approaching awe. Human society considers every child valuable, regardless of initial ability or challenges. They invest enormous resources in ensuring that each individual reaches their maximum potential. Dr. Vex leaned forward, his ancient scales catching the hologram's light. Show us the results, Professor. Surely this system produces weak adults? The holographic display shifted to show adult humans in various professions. Scientists conducting complex research, engineers building sophisticated machines, artists creating beautiful works, doctors healing the sick. But what surprised the alien students most was the diversity among these successful humans. This doctor, Professor Zenth highlighted one figure, required special assistance with reading as a child. This engineer needed help with social interaction. This scientist used mobility devices throughout her education, yet all became productive, valuable members of human society. Mira's sonar clicked rapidly in excitement. They transform apparent weaknesses into strengths. They recognize that intelligence and capability manifest in many forms. Rather than eliminating diversity, they nurture it. This approach has led to technological and social advances that surprise the galactic community. The hologram showed human innovations that had impressed other species, medical technologies that healed previously incurable conditions, engineering solutions that seemed impossible, and artistic expressions that moved beings across the galaxy. But Professor, Toric interjected, this level of individual attention seems impossibly resource-intensive. How do they maintain their society while investing so much in each child? Humans have developed something unique in galactic civilization, Professor Zenth replied. They create specialized roles for adults whose primary function is child protection and education. Parents, teachers, pediatric doctors, child psychologists, safety engineers, toy designers, children's entertainment creators, and dozens of other professions exist solely to support their young. The alien students exchanged amazed looks. Most galactic species assign child-rearing duties as secondary responsibilities to individuals whose primary functions serve the greater society. The idea of entire professions dedicated to children seemed revolutionary. They sacrifice adult productivity for child welfare? Zara asked, her gaseous form shifting to confused purple. They discovered that intensive investment in children produces adults of extraordinary capability, the professor explained. The initial resource expenditure yields remarkable returns. The hologram displayed statistics comparing human achievements to those of other galactic species. Despite their recent entry into galactic society, humans had already contributed significant advances in multiple fields. Moreover, Professor Zenth continued, their protection methods extend beyond physical safety. Humans protect their children's psychological and emotional development with equal intensity. New images showed human adults comforting upset children, celebrating achievements, and providing encouragement during difficult learning experiences. The aliens watched human parents read stories to children, play games, and engage in activities that served no apparent survival function. They invest time in activities that provide no immediate benefit? Dr. Vex asked. They believe that emotional security enhances learning and development. Happy, confident children become more capable adults. Kira's feathers smoothed as she contemplated this revelation. Professor, my species focuses on physical survival skills. These humans seem to believe that internal development is equally important. Exactly. They protect not just the body but the mind and spirit of their young. This comprehensive approach to child-rearing has produced a species capable of remarkable achievements despite their recent technological development. As the class period ended, the alien students sat quietly, processing the revolutionary concepts they had encountered. The idea that weakness could be transformed into strength, that every individual deserved protection and investment, and that comprehensive child care could produce superior results, challenged everything they thought they knew about survival and evolution. Tomorrow, Professor Zenth would show them how these protected human children eventually became the formidable adults that other galactic species both respected and feared. The third day brought an unexpected visitor to Professor Zenth's classroom. Captain Sarah Chen, a human officer from the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, stood beside the professor's desk in her crisp blue uniform. The alien student stared at her with fascination and nervousness, having heard stories about human military effectiveness throughout the galaxy. Students, Professor Zenth announced, Captain Chen has volunteered to provide first-hand perspective on human development. She was once a protected human child herself. Kira studied the human woman carefully. Captain Chen appeared confident and capable, but showed no obvious signs of the weakness that such intensive protection should have produced. Her posture spoke of strength and readiness, contradicting everything the avian had expected. Good morning, Captain Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the lecture hall. Professor Zenth tells me you've been learning about how humans protect our children. I thought you might like to hear from someone who experienced that protection personally. Torik's mandibles clicked nervously. Captain, were you truly kept in artificial safety during your development? Sarah smiled, a human expression that the aliens found intriguing. Absolutely. My parents baby-proofed our entire house, made me wear helmets when riding bicycles, cut my food into small pieces, and checked under my bed for monsters every night until I was 7 years old. Monsters? Mira bubbled in confusion. Were there actual predators in your sleeping area? No, Sarah laughed, another uniquely human sound. Imaginary fears. But my parents understood that protecting children means addressing both real and perceived threats. A child who feels unsafe cannot learn effectively. Dr. Vex leaned forward with interest. Captain, how did you develop combat skills if you were sheltered from all danger? That's the brilliant part of human child protection, Sarah replied. We introduce challenges gradually, always within controlled environments. Watch. She activated her personal holopad, showing images from her own childhood. The alien student saw young Sarah learning to swim with flotation devices and lifeguards present, climbing rock walls with safety harnesses and padding below, and practicing martial arts with protective gear and trained instructors. Every activity was designed to build skills while minimizing actual risk, she explained. I learned confidence through success, not through survival of genuine threats. Zara pulsed a confused yellow. But Captain, real combat involves actual danger. How do protected children adapt to genuine threats? Sarah's expression grew more serious. That's where human psychology becomes crucial. Our protection methods don't eliminate strength. They build it differently. When I first faced real danger as an adult, I wasn't paralyzed by fear because I had learned to trust my training and abilities. The hologram shifted to show human military training facilities. The alien students watched as adult humans practiced combat techniques, strategic thinking, and equipment operation. Every exercise balanced challenge with safety measures that would have seemed impossible to other species. Even our military training maintains protective principles, Sarah continued. We use simulation technology, protective equipment, and graduated difficulty levels. We protect our soldiers while preparing them for combat. Torek buzzed with confusion. This seems contradictory. How do you prepare for death while avoiding injury? We discovered something remarkable, Sarah replied. Humans who feel secure and confident perform better under pressure than those who learn through traumatic survival experiences. Our protection methods actually create stronger warriors. Professor Zenth activated the main holographic display. Captain Chen's military record supports this conclusion. She has successfully completed 17 peacekeeping missions, negotiated 4 interspecies conflicts, and received commendations for both courage and tactical innovation. The alien student stared at the human officer with new understanding. This protected child had become a formidable adult, not despite her childhood safety but because of it. Captain, Kira asked hesitantly, what happens when human children encounter actual danger despite all protection efforts? Sarah's expression softened. Sometimes protection fails. When I was 8, I fell from a tree and broke my arm despite my parents' precautions. But here's what amazed the galactic medical team who studied the incident. The entire human community mobilized to help. New images showed the response to young Sarah's injury. Emergency medical personnel arrived within minutes. Specialized pediatric doctors provided treatment designed specifically for children, and the entire community adjusted their tree climbing safety protocols based on lessons learned from the accident. 1. Child's injury became a learning opportunity. For protecting all children, Sarah explained. Humans share safety information across their entire species. Every parent learns from every other parent's experiences. Mira's sonar clicked rapidly with excitement. You have a collective learning system for protection. Exactly. Human parents network globally, sharing safety tips, research findings, and innovations. A safety discovery in one location benefits children everywhere within days. The hologram displayed the vast network of human parenting resources, websites, books, support groups, research institutions, and government agencies all dedicated to child safety and development. The aliens marveled at the scale of collaboration focused solely on protecting young humans. This is a civilization-wide effort? Dr. Vex asked in amazement. Child protection is humanity's highest priority, Sarah confirmed. We dedicate more resources to child welfare than most species spend on their entire military forces. Torek's compound eyes reflected the display as he processed this through his hive connection. Captain, my collective finds this allocation puzzling. Why not invest those resources in immediate societal benefits? Because we discovered that the highest return on investment comes from protecting and developing our children, Sarah replied. Every resource spent on a child pays back exponentially when that child becomes a productive adult. The hologram showed economic analyses comparing human child investment to adult productivity. The mathematics were staggering. Humans who received intensive childhood protection and education contributed far more to society than the resources invested in them. You transform children into economic assets? Zara asked, her form shifting to thoughtful blue. We transform children into capable, confident, creative adults who solve problems and innovate solutions, Sarah corrected. The economic benefits are secondary to the human benefits. Professor Zenth interjected. Captain Chen herself exemplifies this return on investment. Her peacekeeping work has prevented 3 potential wars, saving countless lives and enormous resources. Sarah nodded. My ability to negotiate conflicts comes from childhood experiences, where adults help me resolve problems peacefully. The patience and creative thinking I use in military situations were developed through protected play and exploration as a child. The alien student sat in contemplative silence, struggling to process the implications of human child protection methods. A species that invested everything in their young had produced individuals capable of protecting entire galaxies. Captain, Kira finally asked, do you ever resent the limitations your parents placed on your childhood? Sarah's smile returned warm and genuine. Never. Those limitations were expressions of love and hope for my future. They gave me the foundation to become someone capable of protecting others' children, including the young of alien species. She gestured toward the classroom. Every precaution my parents took, Every safety measure they implemented, every risk they eliminated contributed to my ability to stand here today as your protector. Human child protection doesn't create weakness. It creates strength that spans the galaxy. As Captain Chen prepared to leave, the alien students realized they had witnessed something unprecedented, the product of intensive protection, speaking confidently about her own development. The human military officer had not been weakened by her sheltered childhood but empowered by it. Tomorrow, Professor Zenth would reveal the most shocking aspect of human child protection: what happened when these protected humans became parents themselves, and how their protective instincts extended far beyond their own species. Professor Zenth's classroom hummed with anticipation as the alien students prepared for their fourth lesson on human child protection. Word had spread throughout the university about the fascinating revelations regarding human development methods, and several additional observers had requested permission to attend. Today, Professor Zenth announced, his crystalline form shifting to an excited golden hue, we explore what happens when protected human children become parents themselves. The results may challenge your fundamental understanding of protective instincts. Kira preened her feathers nervously. She had spent considerable time researching human parenting networks and found documentation that seemed almost impossible to believe. Professor, my research suggests that human protective instincts extend beyond their own offspring. Surely this is an error. No error, Kira. Observe carefully. The holographic display activated, showing a human daycare center where multiple families brought their children. The alien students watched in amazement as human adults who were not biologically related to most of the children demonstrated the same protective behaviors they had learned about earlier. These adults protect offspring that are not genetically related to them. Torek buzzed in confusion. What evolutionary advantage does this provide? Humans discovered that collective child protection benefits everyone, Professor Zenth explained. When all children in a community are protected, the entire society becomes stronger. The hologram shifted to show human teachers, pediatric nurses, childcare workers, and safety engineers. Each profession demonstrated adults dedicating their lives to protecting children who were not their own biological offspring. Dr. Vex studied the display with ancient, calculating eyes. Professor, this defies basic evolutionary principles. Resources spent on unrelated offspring should be wasted effort. Yet observe the results, the professor replied, changing the display to show statistical comparisons between human society and other galactic civilizations. Human communities with collective child protection demonstrate lower crime rates, higher innovation levels, and greater social stability than species using traditional selection methods. Mira's aquatic form pulsed with curiosity. How do they maintain quality control without biological investment? They treat all children as if they were their own, Professor Zenth answered. Human protective instincts are not limited by genetic relationships. The hologram displayed a human elementary school during a fire drill. The alien students watched in fascination as teachers who had no biological connection to the children efficiently evacuated everyone, carrying the smallest ones and ensuring no child was left behind. Every adult takes responsibility for every child's safety, the professor continued. This creates multiple layers of protection around each human offspring. Zara flickered through several colors of disbelief. Professor, show us what happens when human children of different backgrounds interact. Surely protective instincts favor genetic similarity. The display changed to show a diverse human playground where children of various ethnic backgrounds, physical abilities, and family structures played together under adult supervision. The alien students observed that the human adults protected all children equally, regardless of apparent differences. Remarkable, Dr. Vex murmured. They have overcome genetic favoritism through cultural programming. More than that, Professor Zenth replied. They have extended protective instincts beyond their own species entirely. The hologram shifted to show something that left the alien students speechless. Human adults caring for young aliens. The display showed human teachers in galactic exchange programs, human medical personnel treating alien children, and human safety engineers designing protective equipment for non-human offspring. Kira's feathers stood on end in shock. They protect children from other species? Human protective instincts recognize youth and vulnerability, not just genetic similarity, the professor explained. When humans encounter any young, defenseless being, their protective responses activate. The aliens watched footage of human peacekeepers rescuing young crustaceans during a mining disaster, human doctors developing medical treatments for avian chicks, and human engineers creating safety protocols for insectoid larvae in mixed-species facilities. Toric's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information through his hive connection. Professor, my collective is struggling to understand this behavior. Humans spend resources protecting the offspring of potential competitors. They view all young beings as inherently valuable, regardless of species origin, Professor Zenth answered. This perspective has made humans uniquely valuable as peacekeepers and diplomats throughout the galaxy. The hologram displayed testimonials from alien parents whose children had been protected by humans. A reptilian mother spoke of human doctors who saved her hatchling, using experimental techniques developed for human children. An ethereal father described human teachers who modified educational methods to accommodate his offspring's unique learning style. But surely this extension of protective instincts has limits? Dr. Vex asked. The display shifted to show an incident that had become legendary throughout the galaxy, the Kepler station crisis. Human civilians had evacuated alien children first when the station's life support failed, placing non-human offspring ahead of human adults in the escape pods. 43 human adults remained behind to ensure all alien children escaped safely, Professor Zenth said quietly. They viewed the protection of young beings as more important than their own survival. The classroom fell into stunned silence. Most galactic species prioritize their own kind during emergencies, often abandoning even their own young if survival chances seemed poor. The idea of protecting alien children at the cost of adult lives challenged fundamental assumptions about behavior and evolution. This creates a diplomatic advantage, the professor continued. Other species trust humans with their most precious possessions, their children. This trust has led to unprecedented cooperation and alliance building. Mira's sonar clicked softly. Professor, what happens when human protective instincts conflict with parental authority from other species? The hologram showed a delicate situation. Human teachers observing an alien parent using discipline methods that seemed harsh by human standards. Instead of immediate intervention, the humans consulted with cultural experts, researched the alien species' development needs, and found ways to ensure child safety while respecting cultural differences. Humans have learned to balance their protective instincts with cultural sensitivity, Professor Zenth explained. They protect alien children while working within diverse cultural frameworks. Zara pulsed a thoughtful green. They adapt their protection methods to accommodate different species' needs? Precisely. Human protective instincts are strong but not rigid. They research and modify their approaches based on the specific requirements of different species. The display showed human-designed safety equipment adapted for various alien physiologies: breathing apparatus for aquatic young, temperature regulators for crystalline offspring, and specialized nutrition systems for energy-based children. This adaptability has made human protection methods attractive to other species, the professor continued. Many galactic civilizations now incorporate human child protection techniques into their own societies. The hologram displayed statistics showing the adoption of human safety protocols across multiple species. Cushioned play areas, graduated learning systems, and protective equipment had been implemented throughout the galaxy based on human innovations. They are changing how other species raise their young? Kira asked in amazement. The effectiveness of human methods has convinced many species to modify their traditional approaches, Professor Zenth confirmed. The Crystalline Collective now uses human-inspired safety protocols. The hive worlds have implemented individual attention systems. Even the reptilian empire has reduced their traditional elimination practices. Toric's compound eyes reflected the display data as his hive processed the implications. Professor, are you suggesting that human child protection methods are superior to natural selection? I am suggesting that human methods produce results that impress even the most skeptical observers, the professor replied carefully. Species that have adopted human techniques report improved outcomes across multiple measures. Dr. Vex leaned back in his chair, his ancient mind struggling with concepts that challenged millions of years of evolutionary assumptions. Professor, if human methods are so effective, why did other species not develop them independently? Perhaps, Professor Zenth suggested, because other species never faced the unique combination of circumstances that led humans to develop such intensive protection systems. Or perhaps humans simply value their young differently than other species. As the lesson concluded, the alien students sat quietly, processing the revolutionary idea that protective instincts could extend beyond genetic relationships and even beyond species barriers. The humans had not only perfected child protection, but had shared their methods with potential competitors, viewing the welfare of all young beings as a shared responsibility. The lecture hall was packed beyond capacity, as news of Professor Zenth's Human Studies course had spread throughout Galactic University. Students from advanced classes, visiting professors, and even some diplomatic observers had crowded into the space, eager to learn about the most extreme examples of human protective behavior. Professor Zenth's crystalline form glowed with a deep blue intensity as he prepared to present the most shocking documentation in his files. Today we examine human protective responses under crisis conditions. I must warn you that some of this material may seem impossible to believe. Admiral Korath, a massive Ursine commander who had fought alongside humans in the Sector 7 conflicts, stood at the back of the room. His presence added gravity to the proceedings, as his species was known for their own fierce protective instincts regarding cubs. Students, Professor Zenth began, we have discussed human child protection under normal circumstances. Now observe what happens when human children face genuine threats. The holographic display activated, showing footage from the Titan colony disaster. The alien students watched as a massive structural failure threatened to collapse the entire habitat, home to 3,000 beings from 12 different species. This incident occurred 18 months ago, the professor explained. System failures created cascading emergencies throughout the colony. Observe the human response. The footage showed human adults moving through the chaotic environment with remarkable focus. Instead of fleeing toward safety, they moved toward areas where children were located, regardless of the species of those children. Kira's feathers trembled as she watched human rescue workers crawling through damaged sections to reach trapped avian chicks, knowing that the structures could collapse at any moment. Professor, why are they moving toward danger instead of away from it? Human protective instincts override survival instincts when children are threatened. Admiral Korath rumbled from the back of the room. I witnessed this behavior personally during combat operations. The hologram shifted to show the systematic evacuation process. Human adults had spontaneously organized into teams, with some focusing on human children, while others specialized in the unique needs of alien young. No formal coordination existed, yet they worked together seamlessly. They organized without orders? Torek buzzed in amazement. How is this coordination possible without hive mind communication? Humans possess what they call protective consensus, Professor Zenth explained. When children are endangered, human adults automatically prioritize similar actions without requiring communication. The display showed human engineers working frantically to restore life support systems, while other humans created safe zones for evacuated children. The alien students observed that humans who had never met before cooperated as if they had trained together for years. Dr. Vex studied the footage with intense interest. Professor, show us the casualty statistics from this disaster. The hologram displayed the final numbers, 0 child fatalities across all species, despite the magnitude of the structural collapse. However, 47 adult humans had died ensuring the safety of young beings, both human and alien. They sacrificed themselves for children who were not even their own species. Mira's sonar carried notes of disbelief. Human protective instincts do not distinguish between human and alien children during crisis situations, the professor confirmed. They respond to vulnerability and youth, not genetic similarity. Admiral Korath stepped forward, his massive form commanding attention. I can provide additional context for these behaviors. During the Battle of Proxima Station, I watched human soldiers abandon strategic positions to protect crystalline younglings who had been caught in the crossfire. The hologram shifted to show military footage from the battle. The alien students watched in amazement as human troops created protective barriers around alien children, using their own bodies as shields while evacuating the young beings to safety. The tactical situation was critical, the Admiral continued. Those positions were essential for victory. Yet when human soldiers saw endangered children, Tactical considerations became secondary. Zara pulsed rapid color changes as she processed this information. They risked military failure to protect enemy species' offspring? The children were not considered enemies, Admiral Korath replied. Humans classify all young beings as protected non-combatants, regardless of their species' political alignment. Professor Zenth activated new footage showing the aftermath of the battle. The Crystalline Collective, whose children had been protected by human sacrifice, immediately switched sides in the conflict and became humanity's strongest allies in that sector. The protection of alien children created diplomatic advantages that exceeded the tactical losses, the professor noted. Other species began to view humans as trustworthy protectors rather than potential threats. The hologram displayed dozens of similar incidents across the galaxy. Humans rescuing insectoid larvae from natural disasters, protecting ethereal children during pirate attacks, and evacuating young reptilians from plague zones. In every case, humans had risked or sacrificed their own safety for alien offspring. This behavior pattern has been documented across all human populations, Professor Zenth continued. Military personnel, civilians, scientists, traders. Every human demographic demonstrates identical protective responses when children are endangered. Torik's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the data through his hive connection. Professor, my collective calculates that these protection behaviors should have eliminated humans through natural selection. How do they maintain population stability? Because other species have begun protecting human children in return, the professor replied. Human protective behavior has created reciprocal arrangements throughout the galaxy. New footage showed alien military units rescuing human children, non-human medical teams treating injured human youngsters, and mixed-species evacuation protocols that prioritized all children equally. The humans had inspired other species to adopt similar protective behaviors. They transformed the galactic community through example? Dr. Vex asked in amazement. Human protective instincts proved so effective that other species began emulating them, Professor Zenth confirmed. The survival rate for young beings has increased dramatically in sectors with significant human presence. Admiral Korath nodded approvingly. My own species has modified our military protocols based on human examples. We now protect all cubs, not just ursine young. The hologram showed current galactic statistics comparing child survival rates before and after human contact. The improvements were remarkable across all species, with some showing increases of over 300% in offspring survival. But Professor, Kira asked hesitantly, what happens when human protective instincts conflict with survival necessities? Surely there are limits? The display shifted to show the most extreme case on record, the Vega 7 evacuation. A star-going supernova threatened an entire system, and evacuation ships had limited capacity. The alien students watched in stunned silence as human adults systematically gave up their evacuation seats to ensure that all children, regardless of species, could escape. Every human adult in the system volunteered to remain behind, Professor Zenth said quietly. They considered the protection of young beings more important than their own survival. The classroom was absolutely silent as the implications sank in. An entire human population had chosen certain death to protect children from other species. The evacuation ships carried representatives from 17 different species, the professor continued. Not one human child was aboard because their parents had given those seats to alien youngsters. Mira's breathing apparatus bubbled with emotion. What happened to the humans who stayed behind? A massive rescue operation, Admiral Korath rumbled with obvious pride. Every species in the galaxy contributed ships and resources to save the humans who had protected their children. The rescue fleet was the largest cooperative effort in galactic history. The hologram showed hundreds of ships from dozens of species converging on Vega 7, racing against time to evacuate the humans who had sacrificed everything for alien children. The operation succeeded with minutes to spare, saving every human adult who had volunteered to stay behind. The humans' willingness to die for alien children inspired the greatest act of interspecies cooperation ever recorded, Professor Zenth observed. Their protective instincts not only saved lives but unified the galaxy in unprecedented ways. As the lesson concluded, the alien students sat in contemplative silence, struggling to comprehend a species whose protective instincts were so strong they would sacrifice everything for any child. regardless of species. The humans had not only perfected child protection but had transformed the moral landscape of the entire galaxy. Tomorrow, Professor Zenth would reveal the ultimate implications of human protective behavior, how their methods were reshaping galactic civilization and creating new definitions of family, community, and responsibility that transcended species boundaries. The final lecture of Professor Zenth's course had drawn attendees from across the galaxy. Ambassadors, military leaders, social scientists, and policymakers filled every available space in the expanded auditorium. Word had spread that today's presentation would reveal how human child protection methods were fundamentally reshaping galactic civilization. Chancellor Virex of the Galactic Council stood beside Professor Zenth, her ethereal form shimmering with anticipation. As the highest-ranking official in galactic government, her presence indicated the serious implications of the material to be presented. Honored beings, Professor Zenth began, his crystalline structure resonating with formal tones. Our study of human child protection has revealed something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans are not merely protecting children, they are redefining the concept of civilization itself. The massive holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Different sectors glowed with various colors indicating the level of human influence in each region. Observe the correlation between human presence and social development, the professor continued. Sectors with significant human populations show remarkable changes in multiple civilization metrics. Kira, now in the front row with her fellow students, watched as the display highlighted dramatic improvements in education, healthcare, safety protocols, and interspecies cooperation in human-influenced areas. Professor, Chancellor Vrex interjected, explain for our distinguished guests what specific changes humans have introduced. The hologram shifted to show side-by-side comparisons of galactic societies before and after human contact. The differences were startling: reduced conflict, increased collaboration, and most remarkably, the emergence of cross-species child protection networks. Humans introduced the revolutionary concept that all children, regardless of species, deserve protection and investment. Professor Zenth explained, this idea is transforming how civilizations function at their most fundamental level. Ambassador Telek of the Crystalline Collective rose from his observation seat. Professor, my people have adopted human protection protocols for our young. The results exceed our most optimistic projections. Our crystal spawn survival rate has increased by 400%. The hologram displayed testimonials from leaders across the galaxy. The insectoid hive queen reported that human-inspired individual attention programs had increased larvae intelligence scores dramatically. The reptilian emperor admitted that reducing traditional elimination practices had strengthened rather than weakened their society. But the most significant change, Professor Zenth continued, is the emergence of truly integrated communities, where multiple species raise their young, together. The display showed remarkable footage of mixed species, neighborhoods where human families lived alongside alien families, with children of different species playing together under the protection of adults from multiple civilizations. Dr. Vex, who had attended every lecture, raised his scaled hand. Professor, how do these communities handle the different developmental needs of various species? They have created adaptive protection systems, the professor replied. Observe. The hologram zoomed in on a community playground designed to accommodate the needs of 12 different species simultaneously. Human engineers had worked with alien specialists to create environments where avian chicks could practice flying safely, while crystalline younglings developed their light manipulation abilities and aquatic spawn learned swimming techniques. Every safety feature accommodates multiple species, Professor Zenth explained. Cushioned landing areas serve both falling avian chicks and tumbling human toddlers. Temperature-controlled pools allow aquatic and Arctic species to play together. Adjustable lighting systems accommodate both light-sensitive and light-dependent younglings. Toric's compound eyes reflected the display as he buzzed with excitement. Professor, my hive has been approached by human families seeking to establish joint communities. They propose to help protect our larvae in exchange for sharing our collective educational methods. These partnerships are emerging throughout human space, Chancellor Vrex confirmed. The Galactic Council has received over 3,000 applications for mixed-species colonial charters in the past year alone. The hologram displayed the locations of these new communities. Scattered across the galaxy like stars, each one represented a unique experiment in cross-species cooperation centered around child protection and development. More significantly, Professor Zenth continued, these communities are producing offspring with unprecedented capabilities. The display showed remarkable individuals. A human child who had learned crystalline light manipulation through early exposure to mixed-species playmates. An avian chick whose flying abilities had been enhanced by human-designed safety training, and an insectoid larvae whose individual creativity exceeded traditional hive expectations due to human-inspired educational methods. Mira's sonar clicked with amazement. Professor, these children are developing abilities beyond their species' normal parameters. Early exposure to human protection methods, combined with safe interaction between species, is producing enhanced development across all participating civilizations, the professor confirmed. Admiral Karath stepped forward from his position near the diplomatic section. The military implications are equally significant. Multi-species units trained in human protection protocols demonstrate unprecedented effectiveness. When soldiers from different species trust each other to protect their young, combat cooperation reaches levels we never thought possible. The hologram shifted to show joint military exercises where human, ursine, crystalline, and ethereal forces work together seamlessly. The trust developed through shared child protection had eliminated the suspicion and rivalry that traditionally hampered multi-species military cooperation. But perhaps most remarkably, Professor Zenth continued, humans are creating new forms of family structure that transcend species boundaries entirely. The display showed families that would have been impossible just years earlier. Human parents raising orphaned alien children as their own, alien families adopting human youngsters, and mixed households where children of multiple species grew up as siblings. Professor, Zara pulsed a curious blue, how do human protective instincts adapt to raising alien children with completely different developmental needs? They research, adapt, and innovate, the professor replied. Human parents have become experts in alien child development, often surpassing the knowledge of the children's original species. The hologram showed human parents who had learned to sing avian lullabies that promoted proper feather development, modified their home's lighting systems for crystalline adoptees, and created specialized play activities that met the unique needs of their alien children. These adaptive families report that their alien adopted children develop stronger cultural identity and species pride than children raised in traditional single-species environments. Professor Zenth noted, the combination of human protection with cultural education from their birth species produces remarkably well-adjusted individuals. Chancellor Vrex stepped forward to address the audience directly. The Galactic Council has been monitoring these developments closely. We are witnessing the emergence of a new form of civilization, one based on shared responsibility for all young beings rather than species-specific loyalty. The hologram displayed Council statistics showing dramatic improvements in interspecies relations in regions where human protection methods had been adopted. Conflicts had decreased by over 60%, while cooperation on scientific and cultural projects had increased exponentially. The economic implications are equally profound, the Chancellor continued. Species that invest in protecting all children, not just their own, experience greater innovation, stability, and prosperity. Dr. Vex leaned forward with intense interest. Chancellor, are you suggesting that human protection methods provide economic advantages? Protected children become more productive adults, she replied. When multiple species pool their resources to protect and educate all young beings, they benefit from the innovations and contributions of individuals they would never have encountered under traditional segregated systems. The hologram showed breakthrough discoveries made by mixed species, research teams whose members had grown up together in human-influenced communities. Technologies that combined the best insights from multiple civilizations were emerging at unprecedented rates. Professor Zenth, Ambassador Telek called out, what does the Galactic Council project for the future of these human-influenced communities? Based on current trends, Professor Zenth replied, we project that human protection methods will become the galactic standard within 50 years. The advantages are too significant for any species to ignore indefinitely. The hologram displayed projections showing the gradual adoption of human child protection methods across the galaxy, with traditional species-specific approaches being phased out in favor of integrated, comprehensive protection systems. 1 year after Professor Zenth's groundbreaking course, the Galactic University had transformed into a center for interspecies child development studies. The original lecture hall had been converted into the Human Protection Methods Research Center, where beings from across the galaxy came to study the revolutionary approaches that were reshaping civilization. Kira, now a graduate researcher specializing in cross-species child development, stood before a new group of students. Her blue-green feathers had developed the confident sheen of an accomplished academic, and her voice carried the authority of someone who had witnessed history unfold. "Welcome to Applied Interspecies Child Protection," she announced to the diverse classroom, filled with young beings from 30 different species. "I am Dr. Kira Tethys, and I was among the first students to study human protection methods. Today, we will examine how those methods have evolved into the new galactic standard." The holographic display activated, showing a map of the galaxy that looked dramatically different from the one Professor Zenth had shown just 1 year earlier. Over 70% of inhabited systems now glowed with the distinctive golden light, indicating adoption of integrated child protection protocols. "In just 12 months, Kira continued, human protection methods have spread from experimental communities to the foundation of modern galactic civilization. But the story is far from over. It is just beginning." A young crystalline student raised a light tendril in question. "Dr. Tethys, my breeding collective is considering adopting human methods, but our elders worry about losing our traditional strength selection processes. How do we maintain species identity while embracing protection?" Kira smiled, a gesture she had learned from human colleagues. "An excellent question, Jorak. The beautiful truth is that human protection methods actually strengthen species identity rather than weakening it. Observe." The hologram displayed the crystalline collective's recent achievements. Since adopting human-inspired protection protocols, their crystal spawn had not only survived at unprecedented rates but had developed light manipulation abilities that exceeded anything in their recorded history. Protected, children develop stronger connections to their heritage because they feel secure enough to explore it deeply, Kira explained. Traditional selection methods eliminated potential innovators before they could contribute to species development. Dr. Torek, now Professor Torek of the Department of Collective Intelligence, joined the presentation via hive mind projection. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he addressed the students. "My species initially resisted human methods because we believed individual attention would weaken our collective bonds," he buzzed. "Instead, we discovered that protected larvae develop stronger hive connections because they are not competing for survival. They can focus entirely on building collaborative relationships." The display showed remarkable footage of insectoid larvae engaging in cooperative play activities designed by human child development specialists. Instead of the traditional competition for resources, young insectoids were learning together, sharing discoveries, and developing innovations that benefited the entire hive. "Professor Torek," asked a young ethereal student whose gaseous form sparkled with curiosity, "how do human methods accommodate species that reproduce through energy division rather than physical birth?" "Humans adapt," Torek replied simply. "They studied our reproduction methods, consulted with our energy cultivation specialists, and developed protection protocols that ensure stable energy patterns during the vulnerable division process. Young ethereal beings now survive division at rates 90% higher than traditional methods achieved." Kira activated new displays showing the various adaptations humans had developed for different species: reproductive systems, incubation chambers for egg-laying species, energy stabilizers for gaseous beings, growth medium optimization for crystalline formation, and dozens of other innovations tailored to specific biological needs. "The key insight," Kira continued, "is that humans view protection as a problem-solving challenge rather than a species-specific instinct. They approach each species' needs with creativity and determination." A familiar voice called out from the back of the lecture hall. They also recognized that protection is a collaborative effort. The students turned to see Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen and Director of Galactic Child Welfare, entering with a group of colleagues representing 12 different species. Her human colleagues were joined by avian protection specialists, crystalline development experts, and representatives from every major galactic civilization. Admiral Chen, Kira chirped with excitement. Students. Admiral Chen was instrumental in establishing the Galactic Child Protection Protocols that now govern mixed species communities throughout known space. Admiral Chen approached the front of the classroom, her diverse team arranging themselves around the holographic display. Dr. Tethys is too modest. She and her fellow researchers have done as much to advance protection methods as any human. This work belongs to all of us now. The hologram shifted to show the crown jewel of interspecies cooperation. New Harmony, a planet-sized habitat designed from the ground up to accommodate children from every known species simultaneously. The structures were magnificent, with environments that seamlessly blended the needs of aquatic, terrestrial, aerial, crystalline, gaseous, and energy-based beings. New Harmony represents the ultimate evolution of human protection concepts, Admiral Chen explained. It is not a human colony with alien visitors, but a truly integrated world where every species contributes to protecting and nurturing all children. The students watched in amazement as the display zoomed in to show children of different species playing together in environments that seemed impossible. Avian chicks flying alongside, young ethereals through crystalline formations, while aquatic spawns swam through specialized waterways that flowed through the air using gravity manipulation technology. How is this physically possible? Gasped a young reptilian whose scales shifted colors with excitement. When every species contributes their best technologies and knowledge to child protection, Admiral Chen replied, previously impossible things become routine. Gravitational engineers from the heavy world, collective worked with ethereal energy, specialists and human safety experts to create play, environments that accommodate all physiological needs simultaneously. Dr. Mira, now the Director of Aquatic Child Development, joined the presentation through holographic projection from her underwater research facility. The breakthrough came when we stopped thinking about accommodation and started thinking about integration. Instead of creating separate safe spaces for each species, we created unified environments where diversity itself provides protection. The display showed children helping each other in ways that transcended species boundaries. Crystalline younglings using their light abilities to guide avian chicks through dim areas. Human children using their tool-making skills to create play equipment for insectoid larvae. And ethereal young ones using their energy projection to power devices that helped less energy-capable species. The children are teaching us, Admiral Chen observed. They naturally develop protection behaviors that exceed anything we adults initially designed. Kira nodded enthusiastically. This is what we call emergent protection, when children from different species create their own safety systems based on their unique abilities and perspectives. A young human student raised her hand shyly. Admiral, are there any species that still refuse to adopt protection methods? Admiral Chen's expression grew thoughtful. There are a few isolationist civilizations that maintain traditional approaches, but even they are beginning to reconsider. When their young ambassadors visit mixed species communities and see protected children achieving things they never imagined possible, change becomes inevitable. The hologram displayed recent diplomatic victories where young ambassadors from traditionalist species had convinced their elders to at least pilot human protection programs. The results had been so dramatic that several previously closed civilizations were now requesting full integration into the Galactic Protection Network. The most remarkable development, Dr. Torek interjected, is that these protection methods are evolving beyond anything humans originally envisioned. Each species adds improvements, innovations, and insights that benefit all children galaxy-wide. The display showed the newest protection technologies, bioadaptive safety systems that adjusted automatically to any species' physiology, universal translator implants that allowed children to communicate across species barriers from birth, and educational programs that simultaneously taught species-specific skills and galactic citizenship. Students, Kira announced as the presentation neared its conclusion, you are witnessing the emergence of the first truly galactic civilization. Previous eras were characterized by species-specific societies that occasionally cooperated. We are creating something entirely new. A civilization defined by shared commitment to protecting and nurturing all young life. Admiral Chen stepped forward for the final remarks. The humans who first developed intensive child protection methods could never have imagined that their approaches would transform the entire galaxy.